Oh, the humanity is done. George Russell has said it, and now Toto the Wolf, Toto the boy who cried wolf. Shall we start again, chat? I've had enough today. It is done, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, the humanity, for real this time. King George Russell came out and said it first, and now Toto the boy who cried wolf has said it, rubber stamped George Russell's aforementioned comments. Maximilian Verstappen is negotiating with Mercedes, and you can take that to the bank because the big dog has told you. We've gone through the context ad infinitum about who Toto the boy who cried wolf with. Yeah, he will drop kick in the chest George Russell if it means that he can get a whiff of the signature. We've been saying that on this channel for 1,000 gazillion years, or as near as makes no difference. George came out and said something earlier in the week, and now Toto has rubber stamped it. Oh, the humanity. And let me set the table this way. People always want to talk about Toto, and he's such a good guy, he's such a stand-up guy, invested in Sports Etiquette PLC, etc. Bull feathers, nonsense, no chance. You know how I know? Well, because in the Ross Brawn autobiography, he talks about how two-faced and duplicitous this dude can be at the altar of durable competitive advantage. Think, I don't know, Michael Schumacher in team principal form. That's what you're talking about with Toto the boy who cried wolf. He's a billionaire, for Pete's sake. Don't think for a second that that dude hasn't had to stab people in their back and step on some heads on his way up to the top of the corporate ladder. That's who Toto is. Let's refresh our memory. George has been talking over the past couple of weeks saying that, well, of course, Mercedes want to be the best, so they will, of course, be talking to the best as far as drivers. I would expect them, therefore, to be having conversations with Maximilian Verstappen. That's King George speaking, his words, not mine. Let's refresh our memory because this is important. This is what George has said this race weekend about Maximilian Verstappen. As Mercedes, they want to be back on top. And if you're going to be back on top, you need to make sure you've got the best drivers, the best engineers, the best pit crew. And that's what Mercedes are chasing. George, back yourself, chap. You've not been too bad this year. Do you know what I mean? One of the best drivers of the 20 season to date. So why would they be chasing Maximilian Verstappen? Well, we know the obvious answer to that question. Insiders up and down the paddock, not least of whom Franz Tost, think that Max Verstappen has in his locker anywhere between 2 and 3 tenths on average on the other 19. That's why 4 soon to be 5-time champion. That's why Suzuka qualifying when he had no right to drag that RB21 understeer settings and or kicking and screaming to pole. That's why Toto wants Maximilian Verstappen, because he's the best driver on the grid as at June of 2025. George Russell continues, Mercedes are chasing all of the aforementioned, so it's only normal that conversations with the likes of Verstappen are ongoing. But from my side, if I'm performing as I'm doing, what have I got to be concerned about? Oxymoron, any George Russell. That's paradoxical settings. You've said exactly what you need to be concerned about. That your boss, who's saying everything to the media about supporting you, and George is the next one and he's the leader of our team, is in the background chasing the signature of Maximilian Verstappen for the avoidance of doubt, something for which Toto will drop kick in the chest either one of Kimi Antonelli or King George Russell. How do I know this? Well, the team principal's press conference has told us as much. It got techier than techie things, with Toto the boy who cried wolf having to field questions about Maximilian Verstappen and talking to him. Shall we give them a listen, ladies and gentlemen of the F1 jury? Because this, I think, is important. Toto is being transparent here, but duplicitous at the same time. Picture King George Russell of Kingsley, Norfolk, reacting to these comments. Toto being open in his open courting negotiation with the one they call 4 soon to be 5-time champion, Maximilian Verstappen. Please roll the clip.
5 podiums so far this year, including the win. What else has he got to do to get this contract for 26?
Nothing.
Well, what else has he got to do, Toto? Brilliant question from TC there. What else has he got to do? He's been one of the drivers of the season thus far, George Russell. He's a young, hungry lion, optimises for his circumstance. You heard Nico Rosberg talking about the lifestyle choices that George Russell makes. He's fastidious. He makes sure that he takes his bloody pillow with him all around the world with a view to optimise for his sleeping experience, acutely aware that there is durable competitive advantage in it. What does he have to do? Winning races in a Mercedes, for Pete's sake. What more does he have to do? Bravo, Tom Clarkson, asking the right questions out here. Let's hear what Toto, the boy who cried wolf, has to say. Yeah, what more does he have to do?
He has been part of our program since 10 years or so. He's always performed to the expectations that we have set. And he's continuing to do so. We have found, we haven't given him a car to win World Championship in the last 3 years. So that's completely on us. And the times the car has been good, he has been winning races. And you can see, today he's always there. You know that when he's getting in the car, he's going to extract what is in the car. So having said that, we, for whatever reason, in early summer, those kind of contract discussions start to end up being accelerated in the media or accelerated because of a lack of information. Well, what I have been doing the last 30 years in a normal business, contract discussions are not being held in as town halls. So,
don't you dare, Toto, the boy who cried wolf, blame the circumstance and the media for your foibles, for the way in which you've always conducted your activity. This isn't good enough. You owe George more than this. He's been doing bits this year, for Pete's sake. He's only young. Yeah, he carries himself in a way that's mature. His approach to driving, racing, and therefore winning races is admirable. But he doesn't deserve it. You know what I'm about to do? I'm going to set up a bloody GoFundMe for King George Russell. I think he deserves better than this, Toto, the boy who cried wolf. Love me some Maximilian Verstappen. Of course, there's agency. Is there a better driver on the grid? As at June 2025, not the Maximilian Verstappen, but I disapprove vehemently with the way that Toto is conducting his activities, airing out the fact that there's negotiations ongoing with Max Verstappen before the world's press and media at the official FIA team principals press conference. Let's see what he has to say in this next one. Because they're not going to stop with this, are they? When as soon as you get to this at the FIA team principals press conference, you're going to keep answering questions about this, Toto. And for the next one, you need to do better than the last one. So please continue.
For next year.
Well, he needs to be top of the list because he's a race winner with us. He's a Mercedes junior. He's been with the team for a long time.
So when...
Let's pause there for a second. The question comes from TC. Is George Russell top of the list for next year? Toto responds, well, he needs to be the top of the list. What does that even mean, Toto? That means that he's not top of the list, but he should be. Put that dude at the top of your list. Repay him the loyalty that he's given to you. What are you talking about, Toto? I don't want to go scorched stuff, I don't have the emotional bandwidth this Friday afternoon. But Toto leaves me with no choice. Just when I thought I was out, Toto brings me back in. This is dark, this is from Toto. And I can't help but empathise with a character in King George that I don't even like. Toto, please continue, sir.
He says, as he did yesterday, that discussions with Max Verstappen are delaying things. Would you expect him to be talking to other teams as well?
Again, we are going into territory that I don't want to discuss.
Yeah, you don't want to discuss that one. But you'll openly talk about courting, flirting your eyelids at Maximilian Verstappen, won't you, Toto? This isn't fair. This isn't equitable. It just isn't the way that I think this should be going. And then he alludes to it as well, notwithstanding the fact that he says Max Verstappen every other word that comes out of his mouth. Please continue, Toto.
But people talk, people explore, and most important is that in our organization we are transparent. But it doesn't change a millimeter of my opinion of George, his abilities, or anything else.
Okay, Toto.
Not the problem with Toto, the boy who cried wolf. He was trying to wear too many different caps. You can't be sports etiquette, god tier levels of and be talking about transparency and conducting open court public forum negotiations with Maximilian Verstappen. Those three things, I would argue, are mutually exclusive. So what is he talking about, this Toto, the boy who cried? And I remember once upon a time when people had Toto as the god tier team principal, the one, the man, the myth, the legend, that if you were going into the trenches, you would want Toto, the boy who cried wolf, alongside you. Nonsense. Let's have a word with George Russell. Ask him that question. I think even he would pick Christian Horner above Toto, the boy who cried wolf, particularly after these questions and his line of answering them. Please continue on to the next clip. It gets techie. It continues to get techier than techie things. Listen to this one.
Ian Parks, Racing News 365. Question for you, Toto. Toto, I heard your comment earlier about Max and George, but just getting on to George's comments about the discussions with Max. He has now put it out there in the public domain, whether you like it or not. When Max here yesterday in this forum, in the press conference, turned around and refused to nail his colours to the Red Bull mast for 2026. So, can you confirm, are discussions ongoing with Max, or have they taken place? Is he under serious consideration for a race seat with Mercedes for 2026?
So, Ian, whether I like it or not, I like what George says, and I'm always supportive of the driver, and there's no such thing as saying things I wouldn't want him to say. I think we are very transparent in the team for what we do, what we plan.
Pause this right there. Why is this dude always talking about transparency? Why? For what? What does this mean? What does this have to do with the slice of bread? How about you engender some form of loyalty to the driver who has been nothing if not loyal to you? He has a name, and his name is King George Russell. You're talking about you like George Russell's comments, airing out your dirty laundry, conducting in open public forum negotiations with 4 soon to be 5-time champion Maximilian Verstappen. What are we doing here?
And we've been, like that since I was being put in charge of that. So that's not the issue. And at the moment, clearly you need to explore what's happening in the future. But it doesn't change anything of what I said before about George or about Kimi, about the lineup that I'm extremely happy of having.
Hang on a second. Can we stop contradicting ourselves for 1 second, Toto? Stop talking to these journos and the F1 community around the world like we're stupid. What are you talking about, chap? You can't keep both of King George Russell from Kings Lynn, Norfolk, and Kimi Antonelli and sign Maximilian Verstappen. These are things that are mutually exclusive. They're not cozy bedfellows as far as eventualities. They cannot happen. You have to pick a side, sir. These are just words coming out of Toto's mouth, and it really irks me. And then, for context, I don't even like George Russell. I really don't. But I've got to respect him, love or loathe the chap from Kings Lynn, Norfolk. You've got to respect what he's been able to do thus far this season. And I don't think Toto is putting respect sufficient on his name. Let's roll the next clip, because this dude's he's raised my blood pressure at the moment, is Toto. But please continue.
Phil Duncan, PA, question for Toto. Just going back to George, Toto, is there any way in which George and Max could drive together at Mercedes? Is that an option at all, or not, given their history? And then just sort of secondly, in your eyes, is making George wait for his contract actually sort of helping improve his performance?
Well, I can imagine every lineup. I had Rosberg and Hamilton and fighting for a world championship, so everything else afterwards is easy. So, yeah, there's pros and cons of having two drivers fighting each other hard, and
just like there was in 2016.
Examples where that functioned, and other examples where it didn't.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the contract situation, our sport is pressure, constant pressure, whether you're in the car or outside the car.
I've got to pause it here for a second. Tell me this, ladies and gentlemen of the F1 jury. Please tell me that Toto's not about to bark up this tree. saying that this is good for George Russell somehow, that because he doesn't have a contract past this year, that the pressurised circumstance of having his team, Mercedes, the team for which he's always been a driver, loaned out to Williams many cycles ago. You mean to tell me, Toto, that you're going to pitch this in good faith, with a straight face, not a hint of tongue-in-cheek, that this is good somehow for the development of George Russell, that he doesn't have a contract, that it's uncertainty settings, and that you are openly before the world's press and media of the F1 variety, you are courting one Maximilian Verstappen? Unbelievable. Genuinely, you could not write this. They would not believe you. There's no way that you could leverage that extent of suspending your disbelief. No way, Toto, the boy who cried wolf. Not a chance. Please continue.
You just need to cope with that, and George knows that, like any other driver. I feel that when you're being put in a comfort zone, sometimes that is actually more detrimental to performance than having a certain, a certain pressure point in the system.
Yeah, as well, you might exhale, Tom Clarkson, because I've never heard so much rubbish in my life from a team principal. Case in a vacuum. I tell you what, Toto, the boy who cried wolf's problem is he reads too many managerial notebooks, and he feels like he can regurgitate them before the accredited F1 journos sans challenge, as if he's the cleverest guy in the room. And I don't think that's fair, particularly if we're having the conversation at the altar of rewarding King George Russell of Kings Lynn, Norfolk, with the contract that his performance season to date so deserved. This is unacceptable. I'm about to go scorched earth here because it doesn't get better. Ladies and gentlemen, it gets worse. Please continue, Toto.
Toto, I was wondering, what was the deadline for you for Max that he has to let know if he's going to come to Mercedes? And if he says yes, is it then Antonelli or Russell that's the number one to go further?
Well, you make it sound like that we have been asking when do you want to join and what are the terms. That's not how it is and how it works. And I come back to my previous question. We haven't. I wanna just have the conversations in behind closed doors.
What? But you're talking about it at a town hall, Toto. Am I being too much here, chat? Am I going scorched earth before time? I just don't understand. Every single stanza that comes out of Toto's mouth at the moment feels like a contradiction in terms. It is nonsense, F1 baloney. But please, Toto, you continue, sir.
We have two drivers that have been in our program since a long time. Drivers that I'm perfectly happy to have. Drivers that will do great in the future of the team. It's a bit different, the situation.
And yeah, the worst joke is I wish that I could show you the visual. Toto looks chuffed with these answers, as if all the while he's not going to be cheesing off his charge, one of his key stakeholders, keyest of stakeholders in King George Russell of Kings Lynn, Norfolk. What are we doing here? And then he continues, last two. This is important as we talk about this Maximilian Verstappen's future as versus George potentially going the other way over to the house that Horner built in the Bulls that are red. Please continue. Toto, the boy who cried wolf.
I think it was in March that you were not going to flirt with the idea of signing Max. So has something changed in the last few months, either from your side or Red Bull's side?
Define flirting.
No, I don't want to speak for any accredited F1 journo, Toto, but the question wasn't if you are flirting. The question was you said once upon a time, many cycles ago, that you weren't going to flirt. What's changed? Because all press conference long, Toto, as a team principal of Mercedes, boys and girls from Brackley and Brixworth, you have been verbally flirting with Max Verstappen, talking quite openly about the fact that you want to sign that chap, and negotiations and so conversations are happening in the background. So what are you talking about, Toto, the boy who cried wolf?
No, nothing changed. there is no flirt in that sense.
How? How, Sway?
All right.
Depends how you act. You can flirt or you have conversations.
Okay. All right. We're playing saloon semantics then. You're having conversations with Maximilian Verstappen, but not flirting. Okay. All right then, Toto. All right. Have a word with your boy King George Russell and see how he feels about this. It sounds awfully like flirting to me, but you know what, Toto? Please continue.
The team is now, and the fact you've got two drivers already very well established.
It is in the nature of the sport that you talk about people, whether they're in the car or in the factory or in the racetrack. Most important is to stay to your values, and for me that is being integer and humble about the situation, respectful of the people, and that's what we are trying to do in the team. But as you say, yes, I've been in situations like this before. Also before I was doing
Mate, it is absolute bull feathers. I concur with everything that you guys are saying. And as Max has offer last year for this year, lots of zeros and shares, including ambassador role, and he refused. I don't believe Toto will lose George's investment to get Max. He will drop kick in the chest a King George or an Antonelli with a view to get a whiff, just the whiff, of the signature of a Maximilian Verstappen. If this has shown you anything, it is that he's out in front of the press and the media, openly courting Maximilian Verstappen. And yes, that trapper's right. Toto, you are flirting with one Maximilian Verstappen, and I think it's all important. I understand the agency. I understand that there is lap time, of course, of the doable competitive variety in signing one Maximilian Verstappen. I get it. But for the longest time, the one that they call Toto, the boy who cried wolf, said he was more invested in the hows than the whats. This was 2021 when he said he didn't want to go ham and turn his cap around and get in the face of one Michael Massey. So per legendary journalist of F1, Ian Clark, I ask you the question, Toto, because you are flirting with Maximilian Verstappen now. And the pertinent question is this. What, Toto, the boy who cried wolf, has changed?